Just like Mika, there's no justification for this administration stripping funds from the Special Olympics. Tell us about that.
No, I mean, there are critics of this on both sides of the aisle. Even Republicans can get on board with this being just horrible. Education Secretary Betsy DeVos defended the president's 2020 budget plan to cut all federal spending to the organization, Special Olympics, writing in a statement yesterday, the Special Olympics is not a federal program. It's a private organization. I love its work, and I have personally supported its mission. There are dozens of worthy nonprofits that support students and adults with disabilities that don't get a dime of federal grant money. But given our current budget realities, the federal government cannot fund every worthy program, particularly one that enjoys robust support from private donation. Meanwhile, two top Republicans on appropriations committees on education, Senator Roy Blunt and Congressman Tom Cole, have both said separately that the organization will retain its funding despite Trump's plan.
So, Yamiche, this is again, I mean, this is just like the Wall Street Journal was saying at the top, how unnecessary it was for Donald Trump to pick a fight that he was going to lose. Here, he and Betsy DeVos pick a fight to zero out Special Olympics, something that has been a part of this country for half a century, and we've all grown up being moved by the stories from Special Olympics. But to zero out federal funding for Special Olympics, and then Betsy DeVos got very angry and said the media was twisting the facts, and then you actually read on to find out that she's in fact doing that. But this is another fight that Donald Trump's going to lose because the Republicans that are going to decide whether it gets funded or not will fund it. It's just, again, another short-sighted move by the Trump administration.
Well, we often point out that a president's budget never actually gets passed. But in this case, it's so clear what the priorities of this administration are. And that's what these budget documents usually are. They lay out what's important to the administration. And in this case, Betsy DeVos is saying, look, there are a lot of important things in the budget, but Special Olympics just isn't one of them. And she said that the media was getting things wrong. But nowhere in her statement did she point out what was wrong, because nothing was wrong. The media pointed out, and reporters said she's trying to zero out the Special Olympics. She doesn't want the federal government to give millions of dollars to this program that helps, that really puts on display and helps these athletes, and instead, in this population, and instead, Betsy DeVos is just saying, look, we don't have the money and we can't do this. I also think it's a key to point out that this administration, while it says we're still close to Republicans on Capitol Hill, this is an exact issue where you would think that you would go to Capitol Hill and say, hey, if we zero out Special Olympics, are you going to back us up on this? Instead, they didn't do that, obviously, because Republicans on the Hill are saying, no, we're not backing you up, and this was a bad idea. So this is, I guess, another case of the Trump administration really not being in sync with lawmakers.
Well, not being in sync with general goodness. I mean, Joe, at this point, when you think about this administration's policies and this budget, it shows where Trump's heart is. Whether it's separating children from their parents at the border, or ripping health care away from people who desperately need it and can't afford it, and can't afford their, for example, diabetes medication, which costs them $1,500 a month, to now harming the most weak and the most defenseless just because they don't feel like it. Just because, quite frankly, it seems to back up a theme in this presidency, and I don't get it, except it must all be about John McCain. That's the only thing that makes sense here.
Well, I don't know. It's actually about a president that, you know, yesterday Mike Barnicle talked about Chauncey Gardner. I think Chauncey Gardner was far, far wiser than Donald Trump ever could be. We keep looking at Donald Trump as this political madman, this mad genius. The fact is, as we said throughout the 2016 campaign and after the 2016 campaign, Mike, that was more of a referendum on Hillary Clinton and 40 years of Clinton-Bush rule than it was on Donald Trump. He's just not that. He's not the brilliant political tactician everybody makes him out to be. He plays basically for the 35–40%. And you look at this. I mean, he's zeroing out funding for Special Olympics. He's going after people's health care. He's separated mothers and their children from the borders. This isn't just liberal Democrats who are going to be concerned about this stuff. I know evangelicals that are just as concerned about this. I know Catholics who are just as concerned about this. And at the end of the day, the one word that really does tie all of these issues together is heartless. While the guy is bragging to his friends at Mar-a-Lago like a true plutocrat, that they should love him because he just made his billionaire buddies a ton of money when he cut taxes.
Joe, you've pretty much set out and established one of the constant themes of this Trump presidency. He has separated families at the border. He has cut off Medicare. He wants to cut off Medicare funding. He has declared war on the poor. We now have the prospects of work requirements for Medicaid recipients. And now let's cut the funding for Special Olympics. Special Olympics. I have a conflict here, Joe, because my wife is on the board of Special Olympics. Our daughter has participated in Special Olympics. I've been to a couple of Special Olympics, one in Athens, one in Los Angeles. And the theme is that when you go after items like this, programs like this, the people involved in programs like this, there's a level of cruelty and blindness to reality that is staggering. And the only thing I can think of, that I can conceive of, is that the President of the United States gives very little thought to these people as long as he is in the center of the ring. And it doesn't matter whether he's taking punches, winning or losing, because he has convinced himself in the center of that ring, his own ego, that it is only he who is important. It is only he who means anything. Whether he wins or loses, he doesn't know, because he is so unused to ordinary life, to the travails of ordinary people. And that's what we have today.
Well, Mika, think about it, too. Donald Trump's saying that we don't have enough money to fund Special Olympics. The same time he has given Boeing in tax cuts and the largest multinational corporations on the planet hundreds of millions of dollars, corporations just rolling in money after the tax cuts. I talked to some CEOs talking about what an incredible windfall that was, and the hundreds of millions of dollars that went their way. Jeffrey Epstein, how much money did Jeffrey Epstein make on Donald Trump's tax cuts? Robert Kraft, all the billionaires that go to Mar-a-Lago, all the multimillionaires that hang around Donald Trump. I mean, how much did millionaire Donald Trump make off of the tax cuts? I mean, that guy's worth at least $30–40 million.
And his kids?
His kid's worth at least $30–40 million. I mean, Jared's worth a lot more money than Donald. So I know that Jared got a lot more of a tax cut than Donald. But even if you're, I mean, I don't think Donald's in debt right now, but we don't know because we still haven't seen the tax cuts. But even if he's worth, let's say he's only worth $10 million after you sort through everything, he's still making a lot of money on those tax cuts. And yet, he and his administration, after giving away hundreds of millions of dollars in tax cuts to Boeing and other multinational corporations, doesn't have a little money to give the Special Olympics. I don't think that looks very good on Donald Trump or the Republican Party going into 2020.
And as we try and figure out what causes all of this, because I don't even think some Republicans can agree with the Special Olympics cuts. You just have to wonder, and we'll wait, we won't surmise, what is in the Mueller report, which we haven't seen yet. Yeah. So there has been no Mueller report. We've only seen the Attorney General's version of it in a small 4-page contained summary.
By the way, there's talk out there, it might be 700 pages
it's substantial,
long,
according to the Attorney General.
Massive.
And I spoke with the Speaker of the House yesterday on the phone, and they will be working hard to get every page of that public. And I think it might help paint a picture of exactly what drives this president and the types of decisions he makes along the way between lies and connections with families.
I know we got to go to break. I don't understand, though, Mika, why he's trying to keep people in Wisconsin from reading this and why he's trying to keep people in Michigan,
said a few weeks
and
ago,
Pennsylvania, and Florida.
Yeah.
I mean, what's he afraid of?
I don't know. We'll see what's in it. We still haven't seen the Mueller report, so that's a story we're still following. Still ahead on Morning Joe, we'll speak live with presidential candidate Amy Klobuchar, plus Senate Democrat Michael Bennet and Senate Republican Bill Cassidy join the conversation. Also, an update on the fight to make the Mueller report public. As I mentioned, I had a conversation with House Speaker Nancy Pelosi yesterday about her strategy going forward. We'll tell you what we talked about and what her chairs are planning.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.